DNA is a molecule that contains the biological instructions to develop, survive and reproduce. DNA is responsible for the uniqueness of each species and is passed from adult organisms to their offspring during reproduction. Here are some amazing facts about DNA that will surprise you. DNA was first observed in 1800s, but its importance in biology was not realized for more than a century. The Swiss biochemist Friedrich Miescher first observed DNA in the late 1800s. However, for years scientists considered DNA to be too simple to carry life's biological instructions. It was believed that protein, because of their complexity and variety of forms, carried the biological information that made up an organism. It was not until 1953, and thanks to the research by James Watson, Francis Crick, Maurice Wilkins, and Rosalind Franklin, that the importance of DNA was truly understood. DNA is made up of just 4 building blocks. DNA contains all the information that makes up an organism, but did you know that DNA itself is made up of just 4 building blocks, called the nucleotides? The nucleotides are made up of 3 parts, a phosphate group, a sugar group, and one of 4 types of nitrogen bases. The 4 types of nitrogen bases found in nucleotides are adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. In a strand of DNA, these nucleotides are linked into chains, with the phosphate and sugar groups alternating. We are 99% similar to each other. Even though each of us is unique, we are still 99% similar. Only 0.1% of the 3 billion base pair in the human genome is unique to us. Only 3% of our DNA is genes. Genes are short segments of DNA, but not all DNA is genes. All told, genes are only about 1 to 3% of your DNA. The rest of your DNA controls the activity of your genes. We all have enough DNA to go from Earth to the Sun and back more than 300 times, or around Earth's equator 2.5 million times. Most cells in our body, except for our reproductive cells, are diploid. The haploid human genome contains approximately 3 billion base pairs of DNA, packaged into 23 chromosomes. So, we have a total of 6 billion base pairs of DNA per cell. Now, each base pair is around 0.34 nanometers long. Each diploid cell, therefore, contains about 2 meters of DNA. And combining that, with the fact that the human body has an estimated 50 trillion cells, each of us has approximately 100 trillion meters of DNA. This means that each of us has enough DNA to go from the Earth to the Sun and back more than 300 times, or around Earth's equator 2.5 million times. Which brings us to our next fact. If you could type 60 words per minute, 8 hours a day, it would take approximately 50 years to type our entire DNA sequence. Our cells can completely copy its DNA in about 8 hours. Our body produces billions of new cells every day. Each time one of our cells divides, it must first copy the genetic information contained within its nucleus. Copying the genetic information in one cell, using this activity would take more than 95 years, assuming a rate of 2 base pairs per second, multiplied by the 6 billion base pairs we inherit from our parents. Yet the molecular machines in our cells accomplish this feat in about 6 to 8 hours. To speed up the copying process, DNA replication begins at multiple locations along each chromosome. The 2 DNA strands are pulled apart, and copied in both directions, at the rate of about 50 nucleotides per second. Our reproductive cells, the eggs, and the sperm have only half of our total DNA. In sexual reproduction, organisms inherit half of their nuclear DNA, the haploid with 23 chromosomes, from the male parent, and the other half from the female parent. However, organisms inherit all of their mitochondrial DNA from the female parent. This occurs because only egg cells, and not sperm cells, keep their mitochondria during fertilization. Your partner can smell your DNA. According to Daniel Davis's book, The Compatibility Gene, there are a small number of human genes, a tiny section of the short arm of chromosome 6, that may play a role in determining how attractive you are to a potential mate. Suitable partners can literally sniff each other out, finding an optimal genetic other half, using their noses. We share about 40 to 50% common DNA with cabbage. Cabbages and humans share about 40 to 50% of their DNA. Humans even share some DNA with microscopic yeast. This is because all life on this planet has a common ancestor. That means that life is only known to have originated once, and every other life form evolved from that. Bacteria, cabbages, and even elephants have the same common ancestor, if you go back in time far enough. There is a surprising amount of DNA, such as that between cabbages and humans, that remains unchanged since they diverged from their common ancestor. Like what you see? Give a thumbs up, comment and share the video. For more interesting bite-sized videos, subscribe to our channel.